I call this meeting of the Sebastian Budget Review Advisory Committee to order. Let's start off with a roll call, please. Oh, okay. Yeah, we better do that. Thanks. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Now let's have a roll call. Thank you.
Mr. Lewin?
Here.
Mr. Hoffman?
Here.
Mr. Herlihy?
Here.
Mr. Napier?
Here.
Mr. Hall?
Here.
Ms. Serta?
Here.
Ms. Ring?
Here.
Thank you.
I think we have Mr. Holmes, a new member, I think called Ken, and so his absence will be excused.
Okay.
I'm not so sure about the other alternate. He called you, but he didn't say anything, right?
Actually, he dropped me an email.
Oh, okay. Okay, next item on the agenda is selection of a chairperson. Take a motion.
I would like to nominate Mr. Napier.
Second.
Thank you. Any other nominations? Hearing none. All those in favor of me having another year signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Got one no. Selection of a vice chairperson is the next item on the agenda. I'll take a motion for that.
I'll nominate Mr. Hurley.
I'll second that nomination. All those in favor is there another nomination for vice chair? Hearing none, all those in favor of Ed having another year signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. That's unanimous. Next on the agenda is approval of the minutes for the meeting of August 19th, 2019. Are there any changes or deletions or?
Yes, I have several items that I'd like to bring up.
Okay.
One is I would rather the minutes be by word rather than have a summary, because after Mr. Hall's had his discussion last time, we came to different conclusions. So I don't agree with the conclusion that are in the minutes. I would
You
rather
mean you
have
want a
seen.
verbatim?
Yes, I
You
want a verbatim.
transcript?
Yes, I do.
I think that might be a little overboard.
I don't think so.
Anybody else have anything to say about that?
I think our recording secretary might be in agreement with me. Why don't you ask her?
Well, I'm going to ask the committee first.
Okay.
Does anyone on the committee have any comment? Suggestions or concerns about that? Verbatim transcript of the minutes?
I haven't seen any other committee, including the city council, do that, because we have an accurate video recording, which is kept by the city clerk. And also, we got to consider the expense. We don't have a budget, so somebody's going to pay for it.
What?
Thanks, Ed. Any other comments?
I personally don't see a need for it. Like Ed said, we have it on the video. It's there for everybody that wants to see it.
Any other comments from the committee?
I'm okay with the way it's presented.
I'd
Yeah.
also just like to add that it's a summary, but if the summary is wrong, it can be adjusted
Right, yeah, that's what this is for. That's why we approve the minutes, and we can, Andrew, you can make any comments you want to about it, and they'll be picked up, but I'll ask the city manager, Mr. Carlisle, what do you think about that idea?
The verbatim minutes?
Yes.
Well, I don't know why there would be a reason to. You can go back and look at the audio tape. A member before the meeting can go back and look at the videotape. They're online, and see if the transcript from the summary of the minutes matches the conclusions that were reached by the board. If not, the member could then bring it back under this item, could say, I want this changed, I want that changed. It's not consistent, but it would be up to the board if they agreed with those changes or not. And if the sending person didn't agree with it, they could vote no on the minutes. But it would be to the majority of the board would then make the determination as to whether the minutes were deemed accurate or the summary minutes were deemed accurate, and then make adjustments as needed.
Okay.
Okay, I have a
Thank you.
copy of the video, and the minutes don't match. That is why I was asking for verbatim minutes, because they don't match.
What specifically are you talking about?
There is a motion that had been made that's not on the video, and it's in our minutes.
How could it not be on the video if somebody made the motion? That camera runs the whole time we're here.
You don't want me to answer that question.
Well, of course I do. I wouldn't have asked it.
These minutes have been edited from day one.
I'm not speaking about the minutes. I'm speaking about the video. You said the video didn't show a motion
The video has been
being...
edited since day one also.
Who made a motion that wasn't on video?
I have a video. The motion is not on it. Oh, who made it? It's,
The motion's not on the video?
oh, yeah, which one is it? Which one it is? I have it written down. I forgot which one it is, but one of them is not on here.
You mean, let me understand this. You're saying someone on this committee made a motion at a meeting and it's not on the video?
That is correct. I say that emphatically, yes.
I'd make a comment about the video, and Mr. Carlisle said an interesting thing, and I just want to double check it. Are we still doing the audio recordings as we've been doing them for years? Separate audio recording?
No, I don't believe so. Everything's captured live video, it's live streamed, and it's backed up by YouTube. We don't have an ability to go and edit the YouTube video, whatever's online.
Oh, I was going to address the edit thing.
It's video and voice live, right? I
Correct.
mean, it's together.
Correct.
Right. We have no capability of editing that whatsoever. I know that for a fact. We used to record on cassette, also on audio cassette. We had a whole system here. I don't know whether they took it down over the years or not.
Well,
because
if I may, you can't hardly get cassettes anymore, but we wouldn't use that technology. It's antiquated.
Yeah.
And there's no way to back up a cassette. These are all backed up on servers.
Yeah, right, I agree.
Well, Andrew, what I would suggest is you get your facts together and submit something at our next meeting. I'll be happy to have it addressed. The committee will address it. Get your facts together, and you've got a copy. I see you've got a copy of the tape there, and and we'll look at it.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else about the minutes? Do you want to get specific and say what motion was made that's not on that the minutes don't reflect?
It was the motion made by Mr. Hoffman. It's not on the YouTube.
Motion made by Mr. Hoffman.
Can I address something that he just told me?
Yes.
The computer that the recording secretary is using, and he's going to stay here, so if I get it wrong, he can slap me on the head, but that is an actual recording, separate from what's going over the airwaves, and that is a transcript recording on that unit that she has. It's separate from our system.
So she does the minutes from her recording.
Yes, and it's an exact duplicate of what we
It
have.
should be exactly the same as what goes out over the air. It's
So
okay.
can we get that in writing then?
So
Rather than just a summary, can we get that in writing?
Get your facts together and bring it forward, and we'll take a look at it.
I mean, just the minutes, just the minutes. Can we still get that in writing rather than a summary? If she's got it on the recording, can't we get it in writing?
I think what Larry means is if you can prove that there were errors made, then that would be a reason to move forward with verbatim transcript.
Okay.
Well, as a
Correct
matter
me
of the
if I'm wrong.
committee, the consensus of the committee and the city manager and everyone else is that we don't need verbatim minutes. But I'll give you the opportunity to bring your item forward at the next meeting. Okay?
Okay,
Anything else on the minutes?
not now.
Any other additions or deletions on the minutes? Bruce?
Yeah, Larry, I'd like to, on page 2, the first full paragraph there about Mr. Kilgore talking about, it's like the third sentence down, the city should have a balance of $4,917,000. Can we just add in between a balance specifically that's the unassigned general fund balance?
That would be
Because it
satisfactory.
really doesn't say what it is, it just says a balance. Balance concerning what? And I just thought it should say that it's the unassigned general fund. Is that an accurate statement on my part?
That is accurate, and no problem with that change.
So we just need to add general fund balance of that number in there. Is that what you're suggesting, Bruce?
Right, that is the unassigned general fund we were discussing.
Right.
Do you mean that's, all of it is unreserved when you say unassigned?
Correct.
Okay.
It's not committed.
Right, there's another, well, the number's somewhere in the papers, 800 to 900,000, that's assigned, right?
Right, and this is the amount after deducting that
Correct.
from cash and investments.
Is that it?
Yes, sir. I'll make a motion to,
Wait a minute, there's one, I think,
Ken's got
I
one?
think Ken has something he wants to bring up that,
Okay.
Yes, I have 2 or 3 of them. On page 3, towards the bottom, after or just before item 6, the motion that was made should be amended, rather, that was not on the proposed capital improvement program. That was a motion to approve the third quarter report. And you can see it's the end of the discussion on the third quarter report.
okay. Correction noted.
Secondly, on page 4, the end of the discussion on the draft budget and capital improvement program, the motion should read, a motion approving the currently proposed draft budget as opposed to capital improvement program. Well,
So you
actually,
just want to add that?
you
to-
could just say draft budget and capital improvement program. Lastly, on item 6, general discussion by members, it mistakenly was indicated that Mr. Hill brought up the role the committee plays, but that was Mr. Hall. Just a typo. Those were the only changes I had notated.
Okay, are we good?
That's good.
Everyone concur with those changes? I'll take a motion to approve the minutes as corrected.
So made.
Second.
All those in favor of the minutes signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
Next item on the agenda is a review of the fourth quarterly report for fiscal 2019. Ken, you're on.
Thank you. This is our fourth quarter of 2019 report, the end of the year, September 30th. same typical format. We give an agenda summary to the city council that includes the resolution and all the budget adjustments or changes that have been made for that quarter. They fall into three basic categories. Those would be adjustments that were approved by the city council during the quarter, perhaps at a meeting where a additional appropriation or change in the budget was approved by the council. The second section are adjustments that we are asking at the end of the quarter to make adjustment to. And that's what the, actually the resolution is, when it's adopted, is what's being approved by the city council. The last area are adjustments that are within the authority of the city manager to move funds between accounts. The only comment I would make about the adjustments made was we did make an adjustment right at year end as a result of proceeds from Hurricane Irma that came in during that year. We used those proceeds, which were not a budgeted line item, showed a budgeted line item, corrected, and the biggest item was the police overtime account that had been exceeded because of responding to the needs of preparing for the hurricane. So we took what difference we didn't need and put it in a contingency account, which effectively means it was left in fund balance because contingency was not used during the year, and it just results in no real change. In the executive summary,
Can I just, we need to fix this too. We need to address this. We didn't use hurricane funds to pay out the city managers, administrator. We'd rather had to do that to council. Money went into general fund, back into general, reimbursed general fund, and general fund paid out that money. Remember we corrected that? What we're discussing, Mr. Chairman, is the way this is worded, it used hurricane proceeds for retirement payout as city manager's assistant when Gene left. That isn't exactly what happened. The hurricane dollars from FEMA went back into the general fund to reimburse general fund for the outlay.
Right.
So no hurricane dollars were used to pay anybody out. It just, the hurricane dollars reimbursed the general
I
fund.
thought that's what it meant. It just got put in the pot for the money that
It
was
just got
owed.
put back
and
where it was
then
taken out of and made the
right,
general
then
fund
got allocated
as whole
out.
as it could, and then we paid out. But it just reads like we used, and we want
Right.
to set the record straight, we did not use hurricane dollars to pay out for a retiring employee.
okay. Thank you.
Sorry, Ken.
That's
Well,
all right.
this has already gone to the city council, right?
And we made that same correction at city
Right.
council meeting. That's why I wanted to make sure it was clear for you.
Make sure everybody here understands
Make sure it was
that.
clear for you all as well.
And typically, our quarterly reports are brought to the committee first, but because of year end, because the information, at September 30th, by December, when I reported to the council, it was already 3 months into it, so I hated to wait until after our initial budget board meeting to present it. So we did go ahead, and this is just for the purpose of kind of bring you up to speed, let you know where we were at year end financially. So the executive summary charts that I present after the budget resolution, I give you kind of a summary of general fund, where the monies came from, how they compared to the budget, and what the uses of those funds were. We bid, if you notice under the revenues, the hurricane recoveries, that was $532,000 that came in, and that's what we were dealing with the budget amendment to actually create a budget account for that, because normally we do not budget the potential hurricane or the reimbursements. Over to the right, where we forecast the general fund remaining balances, is what was referred to earlier. By the end of the year, then, we had reserves of $5,119,000, And so you know, when we constructed the budget for this current year, the 2020 year, we had assumed, based on our projections, that we would have $5,046,000. So we did a little bit better going into the 2020 fiscal year than we had last anticipated. At the bottom of the first page there, I give you a little chart on hurricane recoveries. With Hurricane Matthew, we've got an outstanding balance. This has been since October of 2016. We're still waiting on final determinations from FEMA and the state. So those monies are kind of held up. I don't know what else to do to encourage the reimbursement. I've tried everything I can imagine to prompt their action on it. With Hurricane Irma, just in the last, I think Monday was the final payment on Irma. So I think I mentioned in the past that we had 100% reimbursements from Irma based on what we submitted, but then FEMA did authorize an additional percentage of reimbursement on the federal share. So portions of that was increased, and that's why we showed another $14,000 due. We have now collected 100%. So we actually got the $14,000. Case closed as far as Hurricane Irma, just awaiting their option to do an audit of the submittals, but we've got 100% of the reimbursement that we expected.
Ken, if I can, whatever happened to the $81,000 that just showed up in a check one day?
That I have, and
Do we give it back to them yet?
no, sir.
Oh, cool.
I
There's
had-
your money for the pickleball courts.
No, I had correspondence with FEMA and have it in written form that they were going to submit an invoice back to us to have us repay the $81,000. Has not been received. They haven't taken any action on it. There again, when these funds are audited on Matthew, I'm sure there'll be a reconciliation. They'll address the $81,000 that we owe. We put the $81,000 as opposed to being in a revenue from Irma. We put it in a liability account. So it's sitting on the books. When they do claim reimbursement, it won't have any effect on the future budgets.
Excellent. Yeah, so it's in as a payable. Great. Yeah.
With
I
Hurricane
have a
Dorian, there's
question.
almost $32,000 that we have submitted to FEMA. We've worked with the FEMA people to make the submittal. The next step is for that to be forwarded on to the state.
How
Not holding my
long
breath
do we?
as to how soon that would happen, but it was a pretty clean reimbursement. We basically had just the cost of salaries and benefits for the personnel involved. We had no contracts or damages that were worth claiming.
Andrew, did you have a question?
I was just wondering how long we had to be still responsible for it. If FEMA doesn't ask for it for 5 years, can we keep it?
I'm afraid it doesn't work that way.
I was just wondering.
They don't ask for money, they demand.
I know, but yeah.
They would hold it out of a future allocation to the city if you owed them money.
But how long? I mean, isn't there a time limit on it?
It's through their audit period. It runs till
The
after they do their
regulations
audits,
allow
right, Ken?
5 years for them to address it in
Right.
an audit. It may take a year after that. I mean, if they come in on year 5, it could take them a year to do the review, but
Oh, it is about 5 years then?
that is, their regulations call for an audit within 5
5
years.
years.
Not to say that that couldn't change.
Okay, I was just wondering.
We're pretty much at their mercy, but understand that these are amounts that we feel like we're entitled to reimbursement on, not necessarily are all the costs for the event out-of-pocket expenses, because we'd have people on payroll anyway, and we're able to reimburse those hours that they spend towards the hurricane. So we can, if we compile the data right and collect all the funds that are submitted for, we can actually add to our fund balance to some extent, not in any great amounts, but that could be a legally viable option or course to take. So on the next page, I covered 4 of the funds that receive most of the attention. In addition to the enterprise funds, I start off with the stormwater fund, and I've given you a comparison to book there again what we carried forward at year end based on our closing out the books as compared to what we assumed in the budget that we would be carrying forward. So we actually carried forward a little bit more than what we had projected for the stormwater. For the golf course, we actually carried forward more than we assumed in the budget. The airport, we carried forward actually a little bit less because those are deficit numbers, so we didn't go quite as much out of the hole as we thought we would be, but we are making progress in both the golf course and the airport fund on those ongoing or those historical deficits that we've had. In building department, there were a greater amount of carryover funds than we had projected in the coming year, in this year's budget. That's really usually what I present in terms of just summary data, just to give you a feel for it. I'm always happy to answer questions or meet with you privately if you have any particular formatting or questions about what we are presenting. The remainder of the next 5 or 6 pages are more detail about the specific accounts. We do a capital project status report, and it's, other than a couple of the large items we had budgeted and are basically accumulating funds to pay for the public facilities compound work and also the project to construct Hangar D. I think we've done much better than past years as far as completing a good majority of the projects. Indeed, some of these were completed right shortly after the end of the fiscal year. I present a page on where our actual cash deposits are. We have a good majority of the money with the local bank account. It is an interest-paying account, as well as we've got monies at the State Board of Administration, which is a pool program, and another pool that goes a little bit beyond money markets that invest up to 2 years, referred to as Florida Trust. So our returns for that quarter were just above 2%. The rest of the report is the accomplishments that the departments have submitted to my office to kind of give some indication of what activity they had during the quarter. I would say that we're still hard at work on a business plan or strategic plan to actually establish some benchmarks and items of priority that we'd be working on. And so I think once we get that type of document in place and we get some measurements, we will probably be, if not replacing this altogether, the narrative parts, we will, supplement that information with more meaningful data. That's all the comments I had. I'd be glad to address any questions.
Any questions or comments about the quarterly report? You got some, Bruce? Shoot.
It appears that we did, it appears that we did extremely well in controlling operating expenses. From what I can see, 2 big ones were what? but the big one's down in non-departmental. Can you explain that?
That again has to do with the FEMA.
The funds balance to the funds balance, there's 747,000 that just never got dispersed that was in the budget. On the non-departmental.
The non-departmental, that includes about 447,000 that was budgeted to balance the budget, because
Yeah.
when we added the 500,000 of FEMA funds,
Oh, okay, then we really didn't have to.
we stuck it in there
Yeah,
basically.
we didn't have
Need
to
it.
play with that then. Okay.
Yes.
So that's why, that's the big number on that thing.
If you net, I did do some calculations, and if you net that amount out and just look at the percentage of spending for all the departments in general fund, they spent 96.5%.
Yeah, we're down considerably. Yeah.
It's usually up in the 97, 98%, but
Yes, that's why I'm asking. We did an excellent job this year of controlling.
and without the FEMA
Did you ask
funds,
Paul for stock options for being so good at that? Oh, shit, that's right, this is government accounting.
sorry.
Okay. Hey, question, another one. We're still messing with the Clear Village software? I know you don't like to talk about it, you can just answer yes or no, where it's still an issue.
No, it's really not. We have asked them, we've sent them a demand letter to send us a final assessment of what they feel we owe them and what we feel we have overpaid. They don't even respond anymore. So we're on the new system now. We're not using them. We're switched the business tax over. So we're basically done with them.
Okay, that's great, really. I mean, I guess they make so much money, they don't have to deal with us, right?
I can't speak to that.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that's it for the report. I'll
Any
wait
other
to-
questions,
I'll wait
comments?
to items for future, okay? Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the financial report for the quarter? Ed?
I'd just like to reinforce what Bruce just said. For a number, I've been on this committee over 10 years, and this city has done a marvelous job of operating within budget. We should be very proud of our ability to do this and commend our employees, and especially our CFO, Ken Kilgore, for a job very well done continuously. The city is, in my personal opinion, in very, very grand financial shape. We just don't have any kind of major financial problem, even minor financial problem that I can see, and we haven't for some time. And we have, comparatively to other cities this size, very little debt. I think basically we've got a road bond, a road payment, and we've got a continuing bond that covers the canal sidewall replacement on the east side of 512. So we've done very well. We're in excellent shape, and that's one of the reasons that our taxes are low, and hopefully we can continue on down that road. Thank you.
I think we all concur. It's very good. Any other comments questions about the quarterly report? Hearing none, we'll move on to review the budget calendar and discuss the next meeting date that's tentatively scheduled for Monday, March the 16th. I looked the budget calendar over, and it looks fine to me. It looks okay. It's a little early in the process for us to be looking at changes.
What happened to the meeting on the 122 Wednesday?
What meeting? My calendar shows a meeting today, 1:13, and then the next meeting is Monday, 3:16. The 122 is, that's discussion and approval of budget objectives. I'm assuming that's something Ken and Paul do with the city council. That has nothing to do with us.
Okay.
See, it says on ours that it's a budget review advisory board meeting. And it's easier, I go through and check mine off so I can separate ours from the rest of them. So our next scheduled meeting is 3/16. Any comments or concerns about the budget calendar? Hearing none, we'll move on to general discussion by members. We'll start with the new member, Gil. Welcome aboard.
On Saturday, actually it was Friday, I received all this information in the mail. Gave me something to spend the weekend doing, which is quite interesting. I realized how much I don't know. So it's a learning process. So hopefully going forward, you will learn more.
Can you do me a favor and turn your mic on the little green light? There's a little button in front.
There you go.
You've told me that before. Anyway, we will proceed and hopefully contribute. Looking forward.
Thank you, and again, I say welcome aboard. Bruce?
Yes, Ken, a couple of questions. Status of the audit, are we done?
No. It's too early.
I know.
Very frustrating for me, but no, we're still communicating with them. They have promised me a draft like any day now, which I would go through a review process, get back to them with any concerns or comments. But we are shooting probably for at least the last meeting in February, if not the first meeting in March would probably be the best.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
Another question.
I could add, Bruce, that, you know, as far as any adjustments they've come up with their comments at this stage, they haven't indicated anything that they have issues with. We made a few last-minute changes from our final trial balance, which is not unusual, things that either we caught or the auditors questioned and that made us rethink how we recorded it. But pretty much what I presented in the quarterly reports are the final numbers, so.
I have two more questions. One, we're in the process of doing the comprehensive plan, and we took the $55,000 out of the unassigned reserves. Is that sufficient to cover the costs, or are we going to have to?
I'm expecting that it is. We did
Okay.
carry over the remainder of that $55,000 that wasn't spent, and it's allocated in this year. But I see, based on the amount of invoices, and they invoices right after their visit, so I think we'll be fine.
Just a general question. Will there be a section in the comprehensive plan on budget financial status of the city, or
Not typically. It's not-
intentions, or?
Not typically, that's part of the elements. It's more land use and transportation parts. It's not typically budget.
Okay.
They added a few more elements to the comp plan that are not regulatory, mandatory, I should say, but we're going to be looking at some of those as well, but the main topics we'll be covering.
Okay, well, while I'm asking you, or you and I are in conversation, let me go back to a subject from last year that we discussed, the motel on Indian River Drive. And at that time, I think you had told us that there was an RFP out for.
No, I had someone
Am
that was interested last year, and they were going to submit to me a proposal.
Oh, okay.
They withdrew. I spoke with it, and in fact, I spoke with an individual today from Fort Lauderdale that's going to want to come up and look at it, and then I had another person today call and want to talk about the hotel, and Councilmember Gilliams wants it on the agenda to talk about the hotel as well,
Oh,
to
okay.
get direction.
Well, good. I'm glad to hear we're at least not setting on a dead asset, so, yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Ed?
It's maybe more of a question to Mr. Carlisle, seeing that this is your first full year of budgeting. You sort of came in the middle of it last year. Are we going to see any significant differences, changes? Are we in for any surprises?
No, this is actually be my third budget year.
Right.
This is actually my third year budgeting. I budgeted the first year because I came in May, and then that was 18, and then I budgeted 19, and this is the 2021 budget. So this will actually be my third budget.
Okay.
So, but to answer your question, we did do some pretty holistic changes when I came on board. Ken and I came up with some ways to, one, we separated the stormwater into its own fund. We're looking at different ways of capturing capital projects. And the strategic plan now is going to be the other phase where we're going to have to tie some of our budgeted items to the strategic plan. So it's an evolving process, but the evolving process brings us up to more transparency and more accountability. If that makes sense.
Yep.
Very good. I like it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
When do you foresee the strategic plan is going to become public?
That's probably going to be more towards the middle of the year, hopefully. We've had 2 meetings on the preliminary numbers that the staff is working on, and I think the 17th we have another meeting with David. I think it's one Friday, either this Friday or this coming Friday or the following Friday, to go over to each department has to give their numbers, and we're working and we're fine-tuning those. So the strategic plan, just to give you an idea, department heads have 5 areas they have to address in their strategic plan. But beyond that, their staff have areas that they have to, and then there's going to be certain high-level things that we'll present to council. They don't need to see all of the, we're going to clean out so many feet of ditch and that, but there'll be high-level things that are going to affect the budget that will go to council for them to approve the strategic plan, so we can move things forward as the plan requires it. So we got buy-in from the individual labor force all the way to management are involved in the plan. And that takes a little bit of time.
Very good.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yes.
Is that it? Harry?
Most of my questions are going to resolve around the actual budget presentation for the coming year. So as of now, I have nothing.
Okay. Amber? Nothing? Andrea?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. First, I know Ed was saying how long he's been here, and I know this is I think my 3rd year on this board, but I was 3 years on the Natural Resource Board and served as chair on the Natural Resource Board, and before that, I was on the committee for the handicap. So I have been serving the city for at least 6, 7 years now. So it's not the 15, but it's 6, 7. And I have another request. Since the Natural Resource Board is really interested in cleaning up the lagoon, we at one time had a $50,000 grant to put in another baffle box. And I would like to bring that up again to the committee, and because we got a grant for it, and it will be fully paid for if I'm thinking we can use the Indian River Lagoon Council has offered to give us a person to write up grants, and this person would be targeted to the particular project that you want done. And I do think we should probably think about getting 2 more baffle boxes. We had the grant to do one at one time, and that money went to the Boy Scouts and the Oyster Project, and that was during the Natural Resource Board time that I served there. So I'm thinking we need to put that in the budget. And this is also testing what we were told last year, that if we wanted something in the budget, we should ask for it. So I think the baffle boxes would help. It would help the Natural Resource Board do their initiative in taking the plastics and everything from going into the lagoon. So that's my request.
Well, I think grants or anything like that should be funneled to the city manager's office to make its way to the budget. 'Cause
No, I
it'll
don't
probably
think
be- Those will
so.
probably be state grants.
No, I
right?
do not think so, because you told us last year if we wanted something, we had to do it here.
And you've requested it. And I'm
Okay.
just telling you, a better way to get it addressed is to deal with the city manager's office.
I will disagree with you. And that's why
your
you're
privilege.
chair, against my willingness. I think I should be able to request it here.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I believe that anybody on this board should be able to make a note
they can.
and that it should be brought to the
It's, I'm
staff.
sure he
at,
heard that.
Yes, yes, and so I have to agree that we should be able to request it be considered, items be considered.
We can, and that would be in when we make our recommendation to city council of what this committee recommends.
But since we're in the process, we're coming up to the process of formulating the budget for the coming year, any ideas that anyone on this board has, I think it is legitimate or
And like I said,
appropriate to-
I'm sure Ken and Paul heard that.
Oh, yeah, I'm just saying, I think that we should feel free to be able to bring something up.
Nobody
For
stops
consideration.
anybody from making
Didn't
recommendations
say
here.
you were.
Huh?
Didn't say you were.
Yeah, it's, is that it, Andrea? Andrea? Is that it? Thank you. The only comment I have is I'm very pleased with the changes that we've had over the last 3 years that I've sat on this committee. It's, I like it, and I expect to see more, and I'm very pleased, as it sounds like the committee is too, the direction that the city's in. I think we're in very sound financial shape, and that's your all's job. You've done a great job at that, and your staff. Public comments. Anyone from the public wish to? Seeing none, next thing on the agenda is any other things for the good of the order. This meeting is adjourned.